I bought this wooden puzzle-like framed farm scene at a flea market this year for $8. I like it more for what I see that it's going to become rather than for what it is. I mean, it's nice, but all the colors are faded. The center has dipped in the middle. Some of the pieces are even falling off. So my plan is to take it apart, repaint all the pieces, put it back together nice and flat, and then finally cover it with a beautiful epoxy finish. Get ready for an amazing transformation. I start by removing a section of the wood frame, and hopefully the picture will slide out. This project is going to be a lot more work than it first appears. All of the wood pieces are glued down to a piece of cardboard, which is going to be a little difficult to safely remove. It should have been glued down to a piece of plywood rather than the cardboard. I'll change that. With the cardboard removed, there's nothing for the pieces to hold onto, so I'll temporarily tape up the backside. At this point, I start taking apart the pieces and repainting them. I'm also going to repaint the frame. I'm using these small bottles of acrylic paint. You can pick these up at just about any hobby store. I have plenty of colors. Some I'm going to use right out of the bottle, and others I'm going to mix to get variations in color. It was very tedious and time consuming, but I repainted each and every piece. I laid them back in place on a 1/4-inch piece of plywood, which is going to be the new back. With all the pieces placed on the new board, I then sprayed it with a protective finish so that the paint wouldn't run when I applied the epoxy finish. Now, I didn't film applying the epoxy finish, well, because what happened during that part was a disaster. I think I just made an irreparable mistake on this. After spending many hours taking it apart, repainting, reassembly, I made a huge mistake. I should have glued down each piece before pouring the epoxy. So what happened was that the pieces started to float. I kept pushing them back down and pushing them back down, but they just kept rising up. As this thing started to dry, some of the pieces are a little bit crooked. But the bigger problem than that is that bubbles began to form, and now the bubbles are hardened. I only have two possible ways that I can fix this. I'm not even sure if either one's going to work. First, I'm going to try to sand off the bubbles and then reapply the epoxy. I may also try to paint what looks like water on the wheel. That way it might look like bubbles are spraying off of the water. I have no idea if this is going to work. I'm just going to give it a try. Worst case, I'm out $8 and a lot of time. It's killing me to have to sand this thing down, and it looks like I'm going to need to repaint a lot of the wood pieces a second time. I think I just came back in the fourth quarter to pull an upset. I threw a Hail Mary for the win.
Going for it all. Tipped in the air. Caught by
After ruining my picture, I sanded off the epoxy bubbles as well as some of the wood pieces that floated up to the surface. Now I spent 4 days repainting and applying a second layer of epoxy. I'm glad to say that I am very pleased with the outcome. I can't believe it, but I think this might be better than it was the first time. Let me show you. I wasn't confident in my artistic painting abilities, but I think I managed to make this thing look like water spraying off the wheel. Any remaining bubbles in the epoxy, I managed to paint to look like water droplets spraying off. It just goes to show you, there's always a way to fix your blunder, and this was a blunder. I don't always show you my mistakes because, well, they're so few and far between. Just kidding. They happen all the time, but don't give up. Persevere. Work through your problems. Put aside the work for a few days if you have to. Don't think about it. Come back with a fresh set of eyes and a plan, then execute it. Thanks for watching. Allie Picked.